I have always believed very deeply that in terms of leadership, that it is very important, that it is very necessary from time to time to put together certain kinds of ingredients which might not always work. But because of the circumstances of the moment, in order to get to the bottom line, and in order to be an effective person, being able to deliver and not being constantly on an emotional trip, that there were times that one would be very gravely misunderstood. And I have been misunderstood in this my home base. When it was known that I was getting ready to leave the United States House of Representatives, it was amazing to me that I received over 700 letters within 48 hours and telegrams from people all over this country saying, "You're not our congressperson, but your voice has been so meaningful and so helpful. And even though we may not agree with you on every stance and every position that you take, we know what you have done in a concrete, substantive way." We have to understand that although we're all black, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will agree with each other on every step that you take and everything that you do, but that we will be broad enough to really try to comprehend and communicate. What are the two examples I'm speaking about? When I ran for the presidency in 1971 and 1972, my brothers and sisters, and George Wallace was almost assassinated, if you recall that time. And all of the persons who were running for presidential candidates at that time, went to see George Wallace. Muskie, Humphrey, Kennedy, everybody who was running went to see George Wallace. I, Shirley Chisholm, I was running also for president, and I decided to go and see George Wallace because I felt that in spite of what had happened, that I didn't want to see that happen to anybody, irrespective of their philosophy. And that was the first time I began to learn something about leadership and how you are evaluated by some of your own people. The letters that I receive from people all over this country, I will be releasing them in the future because I didn't know people could write that way. And why did I visit him? I visited him because I was a presidential candidate like the rest of the individuals. And not only that, he was still the governor of Alabama. And he still had his foot on the necks of black people in Alabama. You live in the North. And I was visionary enough to realize that at some time in the future I might need his assistance. And look at what happened. In order to get the minimum wage bill passed in this country, to redound to the benefit of domestics of whom 80% are black, I called on George Wallace to get the necessary votes because I couldn't get the 6 votes that were necessary. And today, black women are part of the minimum wage law. It does not mean, my friends, doesn't mean that I was in bed with George Wallace because of his conservative views and what have you. It means that I was a pragmatic political animal who's misunderstood. That's what it meant.